This is Jonathan and Ethan from Bad Orange Entertainment, and today we're here to introduce our first podcast. So I think the goal for this was to be very general at first, and then as we go on, we can go ahead and start kind of like honing in on specific topics, hopefully more movie-related things.
Yeah, so it's going to be, just a test of how everything goes. Does our setup work? Does it not work? Is it shit? Is it
Could be shit. It might be shit.
Yeah, but I think it looks pretty good so far. I'm at your house right now.
I know, which is just funny.
Is this freaking you out? Like seeing
you
the background?
No, I mean not really. I mean it makes me sad because you're going to be the last person in my house. I'm never going to be in there again because I think they're.
That's right.
Yeah, so
they're moving or something.
Yeah, they're moving at the end of the month. So. I know, man. It's definitely a wild time.
So anyways, this is our setup. We're gonna talk about movies, video games, whatever interests us. Help people get to know us, and what we do at Bad Orange Entertainment, how the company, I guess, grows along with us, and any of the funny stories that we get, on set or. In the business.
Yeah, I'd say this is kind of fun because I love talking about, I guess the experience of working on movies or working on a YouTube channel or just being on set in general. And it's nice to kind of have, an outlet to kind of, talk about this in more of, a general dialogue instead of having, a structured documentary or, interview or something like that. So that's kind of how I feel to it.
You're kind of working on a documentary of sorts. I don't know if we've announced that yet, but I'm sure this is a good break from the very structured, dramatic documentary style that you've been kind of cemented in for a little while now.
Yeah, so right now we're working on a little something called Shoestring Spectacle, and it's essentially the story of how we decided to essentially try to make a blockbuster on a $5,000 budget. So it's an interesting story. It's kind of crazy. A lot of things happened, but it definitely put me on the path of all right, I know this is a hard process. I'm going to take, some lessons from this and move forward with my filmmaking. And, we've done a lot of projects since then, surprisingly enough. I wouldn't have imagined that we would have worked on this much things. I wouldn't have imagined that it's let me just start a production company. So, when I can have time, I can actually work on it.
So it's funny how just the whole Bad Orange even started, you being stuck down here and thinking, well, I got the time.
Might as well.
So why not just get this going?
Yeah, and it seemed like it grew. It's funny because we already kind of had a network of people to kind of work off of initially. Not just they're not part of the company, but they're well associated to where it's hey man, do you mind helping us out? I'm oh, absolutely. We liked working with you guys. We'll do this for you. So that's always nice, just kind of have that continuity. I think that helps with, I guess, kind of the style of our work too, because a lot of our things, I wouldn't say necessarily offbeat, but they're funny and they're definitely oh, that's our brand of humor. That's our brand of act. That's that's exactly what we would.
I think everyone that we've worked with, whether it be our friends Jordan, Sebastian, Aaron, anyone that we've worked with before, I think they like us enough to want to work with us, whenever they have the chance to. So
I think
that's lucky,
right?
That people like us.
It's funny enough because literally just for this documentary, I'm hey Ethan, can you just go over and get Sebastian to just shoot this segment of the interview? And he's oh cool, and did that. Yeah. So that's really nice to have. Or the other day actually, I had some buddies who like cigars. I'm you know what? I know a guy who sells cigars. Let me go ahead and call up. Call up Alex, and he responded. He hasn't responded to me since that initial response because he's a very busy person. But it's just kind of cool to have that network of people. Now we have a light guy, we got a sound guy, we got the DP, we got people that we can just contact anytime. So that's really nice to have. But in terms of Bad Orange, we're just working on a lot of things. I guess the big thing is just kind of growth in the right direction, or just we have a rhythm. We didn't have a rhythm at first. I just felt it was just kind of hey, it's going to really help for tax purposes if we decide to do shorts, just to kind of have a company. So we can just do that. Because, the thing about an LLC is you have to make a profit for 5 years, and, it's fine. And after 5 years, you dissolve it if it doesn't do anything. So interesting, I guess. Bad Orange just kind of progressed in a very interesting way.
Business mindset.
It was like, it went from like, oh, it's literally just kind of like a cover to save money to we're actually like doing shit constantly. And, you know, and that's awesome. So it's good to have that feeling. I like these meetings. We have meetings every week.
Right before we started filming this, we had it was actually a very quick meeting. You kind of blew through it, but that's fine.
Yeah, just
we know what's going on. We know what we have to work on, whether that be social media presence, development of new shorts and features and things like that.
The hard part I guess the hard thing about this in particular is that this is a very two-man operation, so we can only do so much two-man remote operation
from across the country. Literally,
so it's literally just us, working on shit. So it's really cool to kind of learn how to do that. And the Zoom calls have been really helping. We just have like organized ideas. I'm surprised how well we've actually been keeping up with our deadlines. Like we managed to like pretty much plan an entire premiere for a short film.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. You know, we basically, it's like, we put it together. We had people actually, watch it a bit.
Interested in it.
We jump-started a YouTube channel, which is now actually turning out some stuff. Working on a couple different scripts right now because trying to really focus on original content. We got a couple small clients, just like doing just small little editing one-offs, which is nice too, just so we have, I guess, a little bit to work off of.
The one you were mentioning to me before we started was for a boat company.
Yeah. It looked like they were based like maybe right at Bayside, actually.
Okay.
So I mean that could be cool.
Terrible area, personally speaking.
Oh, I mean, I love the vibe of Bayside. I think it's just the problem of getting down there and the traffic. It's a hassle because I mean there's no parking.
Yeah, I did a gig for a rapper, and everything worked out fine, but parking was a nightmare because it was downtown, and I ended up having a $42 parking ticket.
Oh, that's
not like I got ticketed or anything. Like that's just how much you had to pay for how long I was there. So
yeah,
I'll see what I can do.
It's highway robbery sometimes. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
I guess
but the guy wants editing or he wants video. What does he want?
So he just wants editing.
Oh, awesome!
Just editing YouTube stuff. And he's like, hey, you guys do thumbnail? I'm like, yeah. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. I mean, ask us to literally throw YouTube content together.
Do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. We have like a very particularly like unusual set of skills. We know how to. We know.
YouTube.
We're basically like. We are like the ratchet, like blockbuster filmmakers.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are a lot worse people than us.
Yeah, no. It's just, I think what I like about our team in particular, and every project that we've worked on, especially over the last year, if we come up with an idea, we just say fuck it and we go for it. And if it hits, it hits, and if it doesn't, we learn from the experience and we move on from there. But because of that jump first mentality, I feel like a lot of things, we've just met a lot of awesome people and we've gotten a lot of opportunities and things that we might not have gotten otherwise. So that's definitely the fun thing. Biggest thing though when you're starting a business, right? You want to get clients and you want to like put your word out there, and you don't really know how to advertise that, right? And then I'm like, okay, maybe Craigslist could work. And then you have the black pit that is Craigslist, because as Ethan can attest, you find some weird things on Craigslist. Ethan?
Yeah. No, I've been scouring Craigslist for a while now, since we started like trying to take on gigs for ourselves, and I go everywhere from New York, LA, Atlanta, Miami, the big cities to like
all remote.
The small, all remote, and then I look at the small town, places where maybe someone has like a really specific gig or job that uniquely we could do. So we'd have to like check to see if, we have to like look to see if, if we can do it.
Right.
So I've been just scouring everything, and you find weird things. Like one guy in Arizona needs like a tickle buddy. And that was just in that's just in the gig section. That's not even in like the adult section.
Dude, like I think the most fun thing I heard, and if Marty, you're over here, so if you want to hear this story, but I remember getting you found this Craigslist ad where it was for like a big budget like Christian action movie where they were like, hey, we can't pay you, but do it because you love God.
Yes, it was this guy that he needed pretty much anyone and everyone who could like do something for production, editing, boom operator, makeup, effects, editing, whatever like you could do. He needed it, and he needed you there in Texas or wherever it was to make this movie for God.
What was strange though was he's like, hey, we already have car crashes, we already have this. I'm like, dude, where are you getting this from?
Yeah.
Like, are you just getting in a car and just plowing people over? Like, you know, Russell Crowe right now? Or
if you ever see a gig that talks, I'm talking to the camera right now, looking at the camera, because I need people to understand. If you ever see a gig on Craigslist that specifically mentions to do it for karma, for karmic reasons,
back the fuck out.
No, dude, it's a no. Unless it's like, be the Rock's footstool for, you know, for karma, then okay, that might be fun. But if not, don't do it.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny too because there's a certain, I guess, dictation or vernacular that a lot of people word these ads with, and I love it how it's always saying we're looking for people with a passion where it could grow into something.
All the buzzwords that they could possibly throw into a Craigslist ad, they will throw in there just to get your attention.
I know, that's a crazy thing. Dude, what was the one thing, too, where it was like this elderly gentleman who was asking you to, like, edit something involving a woman, or it was like a video, or like to film it?
I was answering a Craigslist ad where this guy needed a few PSA videos about like what to do when an officer of the law stops you.
Yeah, dude, that was
like in your car. And he said he needed it to be like a parody of Titanic, where you needed a naked woman like laying spread out like the movie Titanic, and she would talk to the male audience presumably, and he mentioned like only that would secure the male attention span. And I don't know, I never followed it up because I don't want to do it. Straight up. I don't have the means.
Dude, that's totally fair. I'm not going to talk, I guess, too in detail about this because, this was a client. I'm not going to list any names or anything like that, Ethan, but I think you know what I'm probably going to talk about. Speaking of, like, weird Craigslist thing.
Probably.
Basically, there was this one gentleman who wanted me to put together, essentially, like, Christian spiritual videos. And I'm like, okay, this sounds fine, and I did it for, like, I really lowballed the price in this. This is, like, before we even got, like, any client. I think this was before we even started production on
I think it was our first client.
Yeah, so it was literally, the first client. And I remember he was, like, he didn't want to discuss, like, what the content would be over the phone. We had to meet in person. And he was being very secretive, and
that's a little sketch immediately.
My girlfriend, who's a criminal psychology major, she's just like, "Hey, Jonathan, this guy has like some Manson marker vibes." I'm like, "Hey, it's gonna be fine." So lo and behold, I meet this
red
guy.
Flags immediately.
Right. So I roll up to this library. I get out of the car, walk over to the front of the library, get in, and COVID restrictions are kind of weird anyway. So I basically just buttered up my hands. With some hand sanitizer. So I go inside and I'm looking around and I'm like, "Hey, you said you were here," and he's like, "Oh, I don't know." And I see this elderly gentleman, this very frail guy. Yeah. Honestly, I can never tell you what his face actually looks like because he was wearing a mask the entire time.
Okay, all right, that's good at least.
He was like this shaky old man. He was just kind of like just sitting there, and he was kind of looking around. And I'm like, "You hear?" And he looked. And I'm like, "Oh, well, there we go." So I walked over, and it's like, "Jonathan?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he told me his name. So we got up, and he basically had these very, very involved, like, handwritten scripts of what he planned to do and all these questions that he had, and he wanted to know, like, all these different things about me. And I'm just like, I mean, he's doing an interview. He's making sure that he has the right guy for the job. Yeah. I respect that. So it takes a while for him to get the content back to me after we have our initial meeting. And I remember getting all of it, and the poor man... and I, no fault on him. Technology was not his strong suit. So he essentially just gave me probably like 12 pages worth of, like a script or something to type out. And I'm like, you could just email me this. I could just copy and paste it instead of me having to retype it. So I'm like falling asleep, like typing this stuff up because while I'm doing this, we're shooting the tub at the same time. So this is like in the middle of the production of that. I remember just like passing out like after typing this shit up one night. And I get it back to him, and we start on those videos. And then eventually I have to go back up north, and when I got back up here, I finished the video, sent him over, and then he wasn't quite satisfied with them. And he was very meticulous things like, this has to be done right, you have to enter the music here and here and here. And it gets to the point where it's like, we were not making a lot of money at all for this. I'm like, you know, for the price that I lowballed you, you're being awfully damn picky right now about how I'm doing this. It's like, who has the cinematic experience in the short films? Listen, I'm no Spielberg, but at this point, I think I am a competent person to put something together. And this was just it was just anal. And it was getting frustrating. And then I think eventually he was kind of like, oh, well, he might have sensed my frustration about it. And since then, we haven't really spoken much after that first like video or two. Because then he wanted me to pull the channel down for some reason afterwards, which I don't know.
Weird.
But anyways,
Super
I keep,
weird.
Every now and then, over the last couple weeks, I'll just get like a random emails like, hey, your days are numbered, the end is near. Because this man...
Not a threat towards you,
so,
that's a threat for everyone.
Yes, it's not even a threat. It's just kind of like, hey, just so you know, for your sexual awareness,
that's right.
As, you know, I'm saying this for your sake, that, you know, the end times are coming. And I remember, I just got an email from him like a couple of days ago, actually. And, you know, I'm reading through, it's like, you need to watch this. It's like, oh, September's when, you know, things get bad. Apparently, like, beware September. And I'm like, all right, buddy. You know, hope you're wrong. But if you're right, cool. You know, if all of a sudden, like, a meteorite, we hear, like, a meteorite the size of, you know, half of, you know, Manhattan is heading towards Earth right now, I'll be like, he was right.
He was right, yeah.
But, you know, hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, because we got stuff to make in the coming months.
Yeah, we got a lot of things. Like I said, we're working on this documentary, and then we're also working on another project as well, which I don't want to announce yet. Which, I mean, I think it'll be kind of not obvious that it's like, oh, this is the thing we were working on by the time we announce it. But I think it'll be welcome, and I think for people who have followed our content, you know, since our inception pre-Bad Orange. It'll be like, I think some people will be pretty excited for it.
Yeah, people that are sort of in the know behind the scenes have already shown interest in it, and you know they're looking forward to the stuff that we have to make. And I'm very thankful for that.
And it's good. And you know, it's funny because I guess one thing it took off on Instagram pretty well was the tub.
Right.
That did pretty well. I was like, oh wow, they're
over 1,000, right?
Yeah, over 1,000. It was just like a little pilot, you know, pretty much just like a let's test season, see how people enjoy it, and just kind of like, and we'll see where it goes from there. And the premise is just two guys talking about life in a hot tub. People seem to really enjoy it. I'm glad we threw that together. It was kind of like a last minute thing. I'm like, oh, I actually came up with the idea in a production and finished the scripts by the time that production had ended. So it was over the course of like a week or something like that.
The thing that I was happiest with the tub was that it had like actual comments on it.
Right.
And every single one of them, I can't think of any of them that were negative. Every single one was positive. And if they had criticisms, you know, golly gee, I would have taken it. But like, I'm just happy that it went so well and people were like,
this is
throwing the crying laughing emoji in the comments.
You know, throwing like buzzwords like oh wow, so people are always going to remember that phrase or that.
Yes, like they were quoting this, like the tub in the comments, and they were like, quote LMAO.
Right.
So like they liked it.
You know, in all honesty, maybe we could have done a little bit better job of. I mean, we did have a quick turnaround, but maybe knowing, I guess, even with just stuff I've learned now with Instagram since then, just in terms of releasing, we probably could have rode that hype train a little bit longer.
Maybe a little bit longer, a little bit better, but
you know,
it's all learning.
All of them had respectable, you know, view counts for just like a random thing.
Every one of them was like around 1,000 at least.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty respectable for just putting something out for the first time.